Gypsy Rose Blanchard, not proud of stripping for online creeps. It's been over a decade since Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mother was brutally stabbed to death. Gypsy Rose served 8 years in prison for her role in her mother's murder. She documented her release from prison for a Lifetime series, but still has more shocking revelations. Gypsy Rose, who became a mother in 2024, opened up about a moment in her life she's not proud of: stripping for online creeps. Keep reading to find out more about what happened. Gypsy Rose Blanchard shares shocking exchange between mom and killer. Dee Blanchard pretended for years that her daughter was deathly ill. She forced Gypsy Rose to undergo countless unnecessary procedures in one of the worst cases of child medical abuse. Gypsy Rose eventually reached her breaking point and enlisted her then-boyfriend, Nicholas Godjan, to kill her mom. He entered the family's home in the dead of the night, told Gypsy Rose to go into the bathroom, and stabbed her mother 17 times. Nicholas Godjan and Gypsy Rose were arrested 5 days later. He pleaded not guilty and went to trial. He lost and is serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for her role in her mother's death and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Gypsy Rose was paroled in 2023 after serving about 8 years in prison. However, she's shared a lot of details about the murder since her release from prison, but she has more to say. She was a guest on Paul C. Brunson's We Need to Talk podcast this week and revealed overhearing a final exchange between her mother and Nicholas. According to Gypsy Rose, Dee asked Nicholas Godjan who he was, and he responded, "I am death," she recalled. Gypsy Rose's mother kept her isolated from the outside world. However, the young girl eventually found connections online, sneaking onto the computer after her mother went to bed. That was where she met Nicholas Godjan. Gypsy Rose Blanchard confessed on the We Need to Talk about a dark time in her teen years when she was taking her clothes off for creeps she met online. "I went to the internet and I found creeps on the internet. I did things on the internet I'm not proud of, like take my clothes off for strangers," she said. Finally, Gypsy Rose Blanchard added, "These men that I would, meet online, they were predatory. And I wasn't thinking anything different other than, yeah, this is an experience that I've had before." Share your thoughts on her latest revelations in the comments. Gypsy Rose Blanchard admits she's not proud of stripping for online creeps as she reflects on her past. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is once again opening up about one of the most controversial chapters of her life, this time speaking candidly about the difficult financial decisions she made before becoming one of America's most talked-about true crime figures. In a deeply personal reflection, Blanchard admitted she is not proud of creating provocative online content and interacting with strangers on the internet in exchange for money. Looking back, she says those choices came from desperation rather than confidence, describing a period in which she felt trapped, isolated, and willing to do almost anything to survive. Her comments have sparked widespread discussion online, with supporters praising her honesty, while critics continue debating the complicated circumstances surrounding her life. A difficult past. Long before documentaries, television interviews, and best-selling memoirs, Gypsy Rose lived under the strict control of her mother, Dee Blanchard. For years, Gypsy was portrayed as a seriously ill child suffering from numerous medical conditions. She appeared in a wheelchair, underwent countless medical appointments, and received charity from organizations and strangers who believed the family's story. Authorities later concluded that many of those illnesses had been fabricated or exaggerated, making the case one of the most well-known examples of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, now more commonly referred to as factitious disorder imposed on another. The shocking truth eventually came to light following the death of Dee Blanchard in 2015, a case that captured worldwide attention. Gypsy later pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for her role in the crime and served several years in prison before being released on parole in late 2023. Since returning to public life, she has frequently spoken about rebuilding her future while confronting painful memories from her past. Financial struggles before everything changed. According to Blanchard, there was a time when she desperately searched for ways to earn money online. She explained that the internet seemed like one of the few places where she could find people willing to send cash. Unfortunately, many of those interactions came with disturbing requests. Blanchard revealed that she sometimes posed for revealing photographs or engaged in conversations she now deeply regrets. "I am not proud of it," she admitted while discussing that difficult period. Rather than portraying those experiences as empowering, she described them as survival decisions made during a confusing and emotionally vulnerable time. She emphasized that she never imagined those moments would later become public conversation. Searching for acceptance. Beyond the financial aspect, Blanchard acknowledged she often struggled with self-worth. Growing up under years of manipulation affected how she viewed herself and her relationships with others. Experts have long noted that individuals who experience prolonged emotional abuse may seek validation in unhealthy ways after escaping controlling environments. Blanchard suggested that attention from strangers online temporarily filled an emotional void, even if the interactions ultimately left her feeling worse. She admitted that what felt like acceptance at the time eventually became another source of shame. Living with regret. One of the strongest themes in Blanchard's latest comments is regret. She repeatedly emphasized that she wishes she had made different choices. However, she also believes people should understand the circumstances surrounding those decisions, rather than judging them without context. "I wasn't making good choices," she explained, adding that she was trying to navigate life without the emotional tools many people develop through healthy childhood experiences. Supporters argue that acknowledging mistakes publicly takes courage. Others believe public figures should remain accountable for their past actions, while also recognizing the impact of trauma. Fans react online. Social media quickly filled with reactions after Blanchard's remarks spread across entertainment news outlets. Many supporters applauded her honesty. Some commented that everyone has moments they regret, particularly after surviving years of abuse and manipulation. Others wrote that healing often requires confronting painful memories instead of pretending they never happened. Not everyone shared that perspective. Critics questioned why aspects of Blanchard's private life continue making headlines and argued that media attention sometimes overshadows the seriousness of the original criminal case. Still, many observers agreed that discussing mental health, trauma, and recovery remains an important conversation. Rebuilding her life. Since leaving prison, Blanchard has worked to establish a more stable future. She has participated in interviews, released a memoir, appeared in documentary projects, and built a significant following across social media. Her life after prison has not been without challenges. Every relationship, public appearance, and personal decision has generated intense public interest. Despite that scrutiny, Blanchard says she wants to focus on personal growth rather than remaining defined solely by her past. She has repeatedly spoken about learning healthy boundaries, improving her mental health, and creating a more peaceful future. Life under constant attention. Few people experience the level of public attention Blanchard now faces. Nearly every interview becomes national news. Every social media post generates thousands of comments. Supporters celebrate her progress. Critics question her motivations. Mental health professionals often point out that adjusting to sudden fame after years of incarceration would be challenging for almost anyone. Adding decades of childhood trauma makes that adjustment even more complex. Blanchard has acknowledged that she continues learning how to balance public curiosity with protecting her own emotional well-being. The challenge of moving forward. Recovery from trauma rarely follows a straight path. Psychologists frequently explain that survivors often revisit painful memories as part of the healing process. For Blanchard, Speaking honestly about uncomfortable moments appears to be part of reclaiming her story. Rather than pretending every decision was justified, she openly admits certain choices make her uncomfortable today. That willingness to acknowledge regret has resonated with many people who have faced difficult chapters in their own lives. Her message is not that those choices were acceptable, but that they reflected someone trying to survive circumstances she now understands differently. Public opinion remains divided. The public continues to view Gypsy Rose Blanchard through very different lenses. Some see a survivor overcoming years of horrific abuse. Others primarily remember the criminal case that first brought her name into headlines. These differing perspectives ensure that almost every interview generates passionate debate. While opinions vary, most agree her story remains one of the most unusual and emotionally complicated true crime cases of the modern era. Looking toward the future. Today, Blanchard says her priorities are very different from the ones she had years ago. She hopes to continue building a stable personal life, strengthen relationships with family and friends, and focus on long-term emotional healing. She has acknowledged that rebuilding trust, both with herself and with the public, takes time. Instead of hiding difficult memories, she believes confronting them honestly helps her continue moving forward. Whether discussing childhood abuse, prison, or the mistakes she made online, Blanchard appears determined to present a fuller picture of her life rather than only the headlines. Final thoughts. Gypsy Rose Blanchard's admission that she is not proud of stripping for online creeps offers another glimpse into the complicated reality of rebuilding a life after trauma. Rather than celebrating those choices, she describes them as desperate decisions made during an emotionally difficult period.